Hello friends, it's time for another video. As is becoming more and more normal for me, we are in pajamas and makeup free today, and I like posting videos like this because it's the truth. I don't usually wear makeup or dress up when I'm working, and you don't have to either, so this is honesty hour. Okay, so normally when I want to post a painting tutorial or time lapse of some kind, it is because I have some information to share with you. And as it stands, I'm filming this introduction before I've started this painting. So whether or not there is some magical information in here, we'll see. But I'm really excited about the project and what I've been able to do so far in the preparation stages, and I want to share it with you because it might be a project that some of my other artists out there are interested in doing, and I have figured out some steps that are very exciting that I'm going to show you. I'll make sure I post things over here about the process of the beginning of this piece. So basically what this piece is, it is a wedding portrait from, I believe, the 1960s. It is in black and white. This portrait just so happens to be my boyfriend's grandparents. I am working on this for a birthday gift for his mom. And the reason I picked this is because it's a photo that I know she loves, and it's a photo, like I said, that is an old picture in black and white. It is framed in her house, I'm told. And I thought, wouldn't it be so cool if we could take this grainy black and white photo and colorize it? And then when I colorized it, I realized, wouldn't it be so cool if we could add this detail that's missing? Because the way cameras were back when, they've only gotten clearer and sharper, and there are no images of my boyfriend's grandparents that are as clear a picture or in the version of color that we could create nowadays. So when I started the project originally, it was going to be sort of a duplication of a photo that already exists, and the farther into it I've gotten, I've realized that there's a lot I can do with this that turns it into something that quite literally has not existed yet, and I think that's really exciting. So before ever starting on this canvas, I will say that I am over 10 hours into this project. I started by taking the original black and white photo and put it into Procreate, and from there, no, that's a lie. I started by taking it and putting it into a website that did a general colorization for me. From there, I edited the color to feel brighter and a little more realistic to me in my Lightroom, and then I put it into Procreate. And in Procreate, originally, I was just gonna go in and smooth out the skin tone a little bit so I could see, but I realized pretty quickly, and again, I'll put my clips up here, that there were so many shadows in the original image that I couldn't tell what things were. I couldn't tell what the wedding bouquet was made of. I couldn't tell where the eyes ended on the grandfather and the shadows began. There were just some issues. So what we ended up doing was pulling some photos of the people when they were older, and I took the eye shapes from a different picture and put them in there, and then I spent 10 hours digitally painting over to make a more realistic version of this. And when I became happy enough with the plan that I had, I am now trying to get my hands on a good quality canvas, because if I'm going to do it right, I don't want to use one of my cheap canvases for it. And I am prepared when I get my canvas with my printout. This is the printout of the color version that I did, but I don't have a color printer. And then I honestly just transfer via tracing on the back, like elementary school style, onto my canvas in preparation. I'm super excited about this project. I don't know how long it's going to take in general, but I have a feeling it's going to be a 30 or 40 hour project in total. And I don't have a ton of time to get it done, so probably a lot of it will be done in maybe 2 or 3 sittings in total. So it's going to be an 11 by 14, and I want to take you along the process because I think it is just such a fascinating project. I know I'm going to encounter challenges along the way. I've done very few portraits, but I have been happy with the ones that I've done in the past, so I'm super excited, and hopefully this turns into a lovely piece. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Let's get into the time lapse of the painting. So first, we are going into Procreate, and you can see this sort of digital art that I have done over the picture to get a better sense of what it might look like painted. And I'm just starting a new layer, putting it on top of everything and selecting my monoline brush, and this is where I'm going to use my color picker tool to select the different tones in the hair and skin. And while this might be considered cheating for some artists, for me as a new oil painter, I learned that my eye isn't quite good enough to make guesses as to where the shades change, and I'm always surprised by colors that I think are different than they end up being when I pull them out of context and put them on a gray background, and it just helps me develop my palette for the piece. So that's what you're seeing me do here. It is recommended for artists, I've learned recently, to use a gray background for your palette and also to look at these colors because it gives you a better sense of your values of light and dark as opposed to a white background. Now, I will say that I'm using a dollar store frame for my palette right now, so it does have a white background because I just turned the stock photo around, but I try to make sure I set my background on Procreate to be sort of an all gray in order to make sure that I'm seeing those values properly. Here you are seeing my canvas with its underpainting. This is just a burnt sienna acrylic underpainting, and I have sealed the pencil tracing underneath with a matte Mod Podge, which is just what I had laying around, and then I did this underpainting in acrylic so it would dry quickly and give me just a tone to my canvas. I really don't do this every time, but this time I decided to do it. So these are the colors I'm using for this project. My primary colors, which is ultramarine blue, cadmium yellow, and cadmium red, and then black, white. I also, for this coat, used burnt umber, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, which I've really been enjoying for skin tones. Anyway, you're watching me mix these paints with liquid right now. Most of my paintings that were done for gifts this year used a lot of liquid because I really needed the drying time better, faster, quicker. So here is the mixing of the colors, and I think you guys will really enjoy one of the later color mixing videos because this first coat, I didn't mix that many colors, and I really amped it up later in creating this whole chart and mapping exactly where all the colors were on the face, which you'll see in a later clip. But these are the colors I used for the first coat, and my purpose in these first coats on portraits is to just lay down the concept of the face and get the features in the right places, but not worry too much about fancy details or anything like that. I just really need to be able to sort of see it. I know there are artists out there who work on a blank canvas and they do full detail on their first coat, working sort of usually from one of the eyeballs, working their way out. And I think that's incredibly impressive. I cannot do it. I would worry that I would get half the face done, and then the next time I mixed paints, my paint would end up a slightly different shade, then the second half of the face would look different. That's my concern anyway. I've never tried doing something that way, but I prefer doing it this way for now. It's what works for me. I'll take a brief moment here to talk about social media while you watch me paint this layer, just because I usually give this spiel at the beginning or the end, and I don't have a chance to really elaborate because I don't want to bore you guys in my intros, but I have two Instagrams. One is Toxic Vinyl Co., where I have all of my paintings, products, and business-related things, and then my other Instagram is more like a brand account called Abigail Faith Co., and that is where I'm posting more about life stuff, owning a business. It's more of me, it's more about my life and my story, and less about products. I also have a TikTok, Toxic Vinyl Co. Most people find me there on TikTok. I have about 23,000 followers, and that is where you get all of the process videos and fun in between things. So those are all things you can check out if you don't already follow me on those platforms. Okay, let's get back to narration. There were a couple details in this piece that could not be seen in the original image and that I had to make up, and one of the most challenging ones was the wedding bouquet. The bouquet had a couple things I could see. What I knew is that there was a light pink bow in the background of it, and that there was some kind of leaves and some kind of flowers, but I couldn't really see exactly what each of those things were or where they were, with the exception of a couple bow pieces. And so what I ended up doing was looking up images from 1960s wedding bouquets or vintage style wedding bouquets and finding some flowers and leaves that were in other people's wedding bouquets at the time and placing them into the image. So this is my favorite part of the video. I spent hours making this chart. Basically what I did is I used all those colors that I had in my color picker, and I duplicated the image in Procreate to make a whole new canvas or whatever, and then I made a chart to match my palette and numbered it so that I knew that the first however many colors were on the female face, the next set of colors were for the male face, then the flowers, bouquet, hair, and background, and things like that. And I mixed up all these colors. What I learned from this is that it takes a long time and it might be overkill, as you can end up sort of mixing some of those in-between colors. I think in hindsight, I enjoyed it. I'm glad I did it, but I'd probably mix only about half the amount of colors and then end up kind of mixing them as I paint instead of doing it all at once like this. But you can see here how I numbered and labeled it, and it's lined up with Procreate, so I can see exactly where each of those colors was meant to go. And this was just sort of a fun experiment and a way to help me get a sense of things. So this is after 2 coats, I believe, of paint, and there's definitely some coloration issues. The top of her head and the man's nose are a little too orange. There's not enough difference in values between shadows and highlights. Those are some of the issues that I was seeing on the canvas, not to mention that the male eyes and face were still a little strange to me, and this continued to be my biggest challenge through the entire painting, was just the eyes of the male. And that's because the original picture is so dark and has so much shadows that it just becomes like his right eye that you're seeing here is just kind of 2 blobs, and it's really was impossible for me, especially as a somewhat beginner to oil painting, to really figure out how to translate that into the proper shape and make it look natural and normal. So that continued to be a challenge through the entire process. This 3rd coat became a major challenge. I spent 6 hours working on just this man's face on this day, and it turned out worse and more what I would call zombie-like than it did before. I felt that I still didn't have the right change of values. The eyes are just absolutely baffling me. This is where I wish that I had some professional painters in the room I could bring in and say what changes need to be made based on the original photo. The eyes were too big, they were too weird. The shadows on that, what you're seeing as the right eye, his left eye, is I just could not get it right. It was a real challenge. And so my advice to this, after having finished it and, thinking about it after the fact, is to really make sure that your preparation stage, you have the proper outline and understand where these things are going, because it just becomes a hassle and a time waster later if you don't know exactly what's happening on the face. And I do tend to get lazy in the first stage of the painting, in just sort of thinking, oh, I'll fix that detail later, but it really is easier if you do it first. So here is the varnishing step, a super exciting step in the process to have the whole piece come together. I'm not 100% thrilled with the way his eyes and eyebrows came out, as I said, but I am really proud of the piece. It did take 50 hours, multiple weeks, and it is going to be gifted as of when I'm filming this voiceover. It's being gifted tonight. We did it! It's done! 50 hours later. 50 hours! This is the longest painting I've ever worked on. Let me show it to you. I varnished it yesterday, so it's still drying just a little, and I have a frame coming for it in the mail. It is not perfect, but this, it's done. If you have made it this far into the video, congratulations, because I didn't think I was going to make it this far. I'm going to put the picture up here, and let's talk about some of the things that I probably narrated as I did it, but I'm not sure, so let's throw it in here. The main thing when I look at this finished piece is that the eyes of the male are not the way I want them to be. Eyes, eyebrows, the area around the eyes, I could not for the life of me get this right. And I'll also put the original black and white picture up here so you guys can see this side by side. There were some colors and details that just truly did not exist in this original photo that I was trying to make up. And while I'm very proud of how this came out, I am still fairly new to oil painting. It's now been about a month and a half. This took 50 hours over the course of a couple weeks. And my biggest issue with the painting is just that those eyes just don't quite look right. And when we're doing paintings of people's loved ones, you really want them to look like their loved ones. So I know that a year from now I could probably do a better job than that, maybe even a month from now, but I'm pleased with how it came out. I'm gonna give it a couple days to dry and then pack it up to gift. And yeah, I'm really proud of myself for filming this whole process. There have been other paintings that I've started filming, given up halfway through, or finished it, forgot to film it, and then realized I was gonna make a video out of it. So the fact that we have the majority of this one on film for you, I'm just so relieved to have it done and to share the process. I hope everyone has a wonderful 2022. As always, let me know what you want to know in the comments. Feel free to ask me questions. And you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Toxic Vinyl Co. I will see you all next time. Mwah.